Tower, and I will be presenting Week 4 topic of the 1955 system, Japan. To decipher the events and importance of this system, I will be referring to the topic questions for this week. Firstly, what are the defining factors of the 1955 system? And what are the key factors that led to the Liberal Democratic Party's dominance in Japanese politics? First off, what is the 1955 system? The development of the 1955 system was established on the formation of new government parties to tackle issues and crises that had occurred in post-World War II Japan. The two new governmental parties were the Japanese Socialists, which were a combination of an already existing left and right-wing socialist party, and the Liberal Democratic Party, which were also a mixture of pre-democratic and liberal members of parliament. Leonard Chopper stated that both parties had distinctive political approach when it came to the Article 9 Constitution. Democratization of Japan by the US occupation in 1946, and later the development of the 1951 treaty in the midst of US-Soviet tension. The Liberal Democratic was against the Constitution while supporting the Security Treaty, simply because it saw Japan as a nation that can regain its political stand through rearmament. It can showcase Japanese values and still be a good friend to the US. On the other hand, the JSP, or the Japanese Socialist Party, believed that Japan should just steer away from arms altogether and focus on economic restoration. Dowler and Kenichi further elaborate on the different views provided by the two parties, whereby the LDP saw the Security Treaty as making Japan-US alliance stronger, even though it did agree that the treaty needed to be renewed due to the fact that this will provide Japan with greater autonomy, particularly in its defense and military cooperation. While the opposition, the JSP, saw the treaty as a threat to the very existence of Japan, with the US military bases on Japan's ground and the US tension with the Soviet Union, which might create further havoc in Japan. As a whole, the 1955 system became a pillar for setting a new trajectory to a nation that would have become one of the world's leading economy. The 1955 system opened a door for state subsidies, employment opportunity, and a rapid growing economy. Now let us look at key factors that shaped LDP dominance in Japan. But first, here is the graph. Elections and political parties 1955, as highlighted by Chopper in the evolution of Japan's party system, which shows the consecutive winnings of the LDP government throughout the past 4 decades over its opposition, the JSP. The pattern of continuous dominance is shown on the vast difference in the two government party votes. In 1958, as you can all see, the start of election for the two newly created parties, in which the LDP would always dominate. In this case, in the 1958, it dominated with votes of 57.8%. Although it did decline during the 1960s and 70s, it did rise back to its supremacy in the 80s and into this present era. Although the votes declined within that period, in this case, we do know that the LDP is the actual winning government of Japan and the current government of modern Japan at the moment. The key factors to the endless success were the fact it provided employment opportunities and also a rise in employment. Um, it also introduced industrialization. But one of the most, probably one of the most important factor described by academics such as Reed, Sheena, and Thies on the end of LDP dominance and the rise of party-oriented politics of Japan. In their book, they suggest that basically the LDP's dominance was heavily influenced by its voting system. Even though, when it did came in, as the winning government, it did provide that the employment opportunities and industrialization, renew roads, and so forth. But the most, I think, what these academics have suggested that a lot of its winning factors would probably be the way the voting system of Japan was in during that time. Now, in regards to Reed, Sheena, and Thies, they said that the voting system was basically the non-transferable voting system, which allowed the LDP to use state subsidies and resources to bargain with local constituencies, particularly business groups, the agriculture sector, and unions, thus producing client-patron relations that would later become a winning source for election period. So in regards to when LDP came in, got their dominance, majority of their votes would come from farmers, from the rural area, and particularly the agriculture sector. Or in other words, pouring enormous amounts of pork barrel spending. So that was another way of how Reed, Sheena, and Thies would describe it. Would describe the non-transferable voting system as, what the LDP would do is they lure people to vote for them by pouring enormous amounts of pork barrel spending. Now, we also need to look at what happened to this non-transferable voting system. So it appeared that in 1954, the voting system, as named in Japanese, it's called the Koenkai, or what it means is electoral system, basically. Now, what happened was, in 1994, the government, or they decided to change the electoral system, so it doesn't benefit the dominant LDP. So this is what they've done. They've removed a set of incentive for the government's particularistic and clientelistic spending patterns. They removed the candidate-centered politics and the LDP's emphasis on the countryside. And the LDP, once it did return to power, it had to reduce particularistic spending and undercut many of its long-standing clientelistic relationships. So basically what the LDP did, they deregulated markets from the financial system to the postal system. So these are actual quotes from Reed, Sheena and Thies. And what they also did was they forced the consolidation of local towns and local politics, sending a shockwave through its traditional center-local clientelistic networks. So what happened was they had to actually stop, making huge donations, to candidates, particularly in the rural area. Hence, getting these votes. But even though this happened, it did not stop the LDP from dominating. As in this present era, the LDP is still dominating, and with the current Prime Minister of Japan, by the man of Shinzo Abe. He's an LDP member, and it just shows that LDP is probably one of the most, strong, dominant parliamentary force that have come into this, Japanese politics from, ever since the 1955 system had happened. Now, just in the present era, the LDP, they have done a lot of political work, just like every other government all over. What they've done is, recent in November last year, they went through to the summits, the G20 summits, the APEC summit, and the ASEAN summit. Also the Japan, South Korea, China trilateral summit held at the same month, in which Japan discussed with these other two countries, South Korea and China, in regards to the issue of the comfort women issues. And on the others, on the G20, APEC, ASEAN, they talk about various issues, particularly the fight against terrorism. So overall, the Liberal Democratic Party continued to dominate any other political party of Japan ever since its introduction in the 1955 system, therefore making it one of the most important governments to be created in response to the conditions that occurred in Japan during the Cold War and the occupation of the US in Japanese land. And here are my references. And thanks for watching.